So correlation measures basically the relationship between the two variables, okay, and it measures only linear relationship between two variables, and the measures of correlations are your correlation. One is the, okay, second is your coefficient of correlation, and there are two types of coefficient of correlation. One is the Spearman's and second one is the Pearson's, okay, and finally third measure is the coefficient of determination. So that we have already discussed in the last class. So today we will discuss the next thing, which is the regression. Regression is basically, please no talking, please, no disturbance. This is a live session, please. So in regression analysis, we have to extend further through correlation, and in correlation we just find the relationship between the two variable, okay, like what is the relationship between height and weight. If you have two variables x and y, suppose x represents height and y represents weight, so what is the relationship, how much is the relationship you have, okay. So you can find from the correlation coefficient like r. If r is negative, you know you have negative relationship. It is positive, you have the positive relationship. That means if one variable increase, then other would also increase. Negative means if one increase, other would decrease. If you have zero relation, that means the two variables are independent. There is no relationship at all, and the value of r lies always between -1 to +1, okay. So now if you have to find something, some you can say regression equation, you can say, so that you can predict one variable corresponding to other variable, okay. So now I want to develop a model, you can say regression model, and that is the linear regression model. That means if you have to predict some x value for given y or some y value for given x, so I need a, you can say, formula, or you can say a equation, okay, that can predict the y value or x value if other one is given, okay. So that is the regression model basically. You have to now form a mathematical equation of these two variables. So that we will discuss how you can make these regression equations, okay, and what are its importance, okay, what are the assumptions in this model, okay, and the different questions related to these regression analysis basically. So first of all, if you say what is the regression meaning, as I already told you, regression means you have to basically regress, or you have to predict some variable if other variables value is given to you, okay. Further, regression can be of many types. It can be linear, it can be non-linear, it can be, you can say, multi-regression, okay. That means if you have more than two variable, if you have three variable, four variable, five variable, then it is a multi-correlation model, okay. So that although these is beyond your scope, these things, and in your syllabus mainly you have only linear regression, okay, linear and simple regression. So linear means when you don't have any, you can say, power of more than one, okay. So that is the linear regression. If you have y equal to x square, x cube, or e की power x exponential function or trigonometric functions, then you have non-linear regressions, okay. So if you have simply y equal to ax plus b, so this is a linear line, therefore we called it a linear regression, okay. And linearity means if you change one variable, then the corresponding variable also changes linearly only, okay. Then you have the linear model. In non-linear, you may have more than one degree. That means y equal to x raised to power n. N can be 2, 3, 4, 5, or you can say it may be in fractions except one. Then it would be non-linear. Okay. Or as I said to you, you may have the other functions, e raised to power exponential function, logarithm function, or trigonometric function, or any combination of these. Then you have non-linear regression. Okay. Further, you may have multi-variable. That means, suppose I am saying my sales dependent only on price. Okay, Y suppose represents sales and X represents price. So Y is dependent only on X. So then it is a simple model. Okay, here we have only two variables, Y and X. One is sale data, other is the price. So you can create a mathematical formula or a mathematical, you can say, equation using these two variables, okay, which you can use to predict the your sales for given price. But if your sales is dependent on more than one variable, it may depend upon price as well as it may depend on advertisement budget. So now your function sales is dependent on two variables instead of one. So this you can say for these types of situations you can also create the models. Okay, so we will see very little about all these things, but mainly you have only simple linear regression model where you have only two variables. One would be the independent and second would be dependent. So there are two variables, one is independent variable and other is dependent. So to whom you call dependent and to whom you call independent variable. If I am talking about sales and you can say price, there are two types of data you have only. Okay, paired data X and Y. So X suppose represents your price and Y represents sales. That you have to see. Okay, it's your wish to whom you want dependent and to whom you want independent. Basically, dependent variable is that variable which you can say depend on the occurrence of other variable. So I am saying sales, usually sales is the dependent variable or sales you take Y because sales depends upon the price. Okay, if you feel no, the price depends upon sales, then it's fine. You can take your dependent variable as sales and price, dependent variable as price and independent as sales. Okay, so you can have more than one variable as your independent variables. So independent variables would be more if you are considering this multiple linear regression model. Okay, multiple linear regression model means when you have more than one independent variables or only one dependent variable. See, y is function of, you can say, beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus beta 3 x3. So here x1 x2 x3 xn, these all are your independent variables and beta 1 beta 2 are their coefficients which you have to estimate using the given data. Okay, so here you can see we would discuss only the simple linear model, regression model, multiple linear, and finally we have non-linear models. Okay, so our focus would be only on the simple linear model. Simple means only two variable x and y, one dependent, other independent. Okay, linear means you have only linear equation, not and no any non-linear equation. So you can see this is the basic form of the this regression model, y equal to alpha plus beta, or you can say a plus b x I plus error term epsilon. Okay, so this is the very basic model, okay, which you have to find, which you have to calculate, or which you have to estimate. Now what you have to estimate? You have to estimate only alpha and beta. Okay, you have to find alpha and beta with the given data. Whatever the data is given to you, you just using that data you can estimate the alpha and beta with the help of principle of least square. So we have a principle of least square. Using that you can estimate this alpha as well as beta. Basically you have to fit a line. If you have bivariate data x and y you would have, and you have to fit a line, best fit line in your data so that the error should be minimized. Okay, so I will show you that through example. So here alpha is basically your intercept and beta is the slope. If you have studied the equation of line in 11th, 12th, okay, so you must have seen, if I say y equal to a plus bx, what is a? A is the intercept and b is your slope of the line. Okay, and here if I am considering this type of equation y equal to alpha plus beta x, so here x is independent variable while y is dependent variable. Okay, further you can say x is independent कह लीजिए or you can say x is explanatory variable. Okay, while dependent variable is basically response variable. Okay, who is responding? So y is responding corresponding to changes in x. Before coming to the assumptions, we will discuss one numerical. Okay, so that you can understand what is this model and what you need to calculate. So if you see this example 4.1 in your book, here a marketing manager wants to study the relationship between sales of certain electronic item and advertisement budget. Okay, so he wants to study the relationship between the two variable. Basically one variable is the budget and other is the sales. So if you want to only find the relationship, how much is the relationship between the two or whether the two variables are related or not, you just find the correlation coefficient. Yes, if you find the correlation coefficient and depending upon the value of correlation coefficient you can find, yeah, both are related or they have no relationship, or if they are related, what kind of relationship, positive or negative, strong relationship or weak relationship. So this all you can find with the help of correlation coefficient. But we here we have to now find the model, we have to develop the regression equation basically कि उन दोनों के बीच में जो रिलेशनशिप है उसकी फॉर्म क्या है कि y equal to okay 3 plus 2x, where x suppose may be the sales or budget, that you have to decide कि आपको x क्या लेना है, y क्या लेना है, that you have to decide. Okay, so now we have a data, sample data, you can say this is sample data basically. Whenever you have to find this relationship, okay, like height and weight, I want to find the relationship between height and weight of the entire you can say DU students. So there are 2 lakh students suppose, I cannot find the height and weight of the entire 2 lakh students. So what I would do, I would take only sample. Suppose I take a sample of only 20 students randomly from entire 2 lakh students. Randomly means everyone gets the equal chance. Okay, so I would select 20 students randomly and then I have the, like here we have the data like budget and sales. Similarly I can have that 20 student data of height and weight, and then I want to find the relationship, how they are related, what kind of relationship they have. Okay, so through correlation coefficient I can find the relation, whether they are related or not, that's fine. But now what is the form of the relationship? So then I have to take one variable as x, other is as y. Okay, so in x and y you know the your regression model which is very simple, which is y equal to a x plus b. So I have to basically estimate only this. Okay, if I say y equal to a plus b x, so I have to find the value of a and b basically. Okay, what is my a and b? Because I know y is suppose my sales. Okay, if I say y is my sales and x is my budget, I have to just find a and b with the help of this data set. Okay, so how would you find this a and b? So that is the regression model. Through regression model you have to estimate a and b and you have to find such value of a and b so that the error should be minimum. Although you cannot you can say avoid the errors. There would be some part of error, but you can minimize with the principle of least squares. Okay, there is a least square method through which you can minimize the error parts. Okay, so using that you have to find the regression equations, and we know what are the formulas to calculate A and B. So if you see how would you find A and B, so here you can see this is through regression equations I have minimized the errors. Okay, and this is the value of B. Okay, so you can find the B value using this formula, or simplified form, this is the summation xi yi minus n x bar y bar, okay, divide by xi square, summation xi square minus n x bar ka whole square. So this is a formula to calculate B, and how this formula is obtained with the help of principle of least square by minimizing the errors, you can see, and by taking the derivative of this error terms. Okay, you have to minimize this. So by taking derivative and equating it to 0 with respect to A and B, okay, you get two equation. Okay, so B is this, and similarly you can obtain the formula of A. Okay, because you know the mean of your data x bar and y bar would be the mean. Your line of equation or regression line would always pass through the mean. Okay, so y bar would always satisfy your equation. So therefore you can say this y bar equal to A plus B x bar. Using this you can also find A. If you, once you know A, B, you can also find the value of A. Okay. Further, you have the formulas for your regression coefficient. This B is also called BYX. Okay. So basically, you have two types of equation. One is the, just a second. We have two types of equation. One is regression equation of y on x, and other is x on y. So we have one equation, regression equation of y on x. Okay, so here we have to, this B you can say byx basically. Okay, so this byx, the entire formula is this one. Otherwise you can convert into this short form r into sigma y upon sigma x. So this is also the formula for B. Okay, so B is basically, B is called regression coefficient. What is B? This B is called regression coefficient. So this B is called regression coefficient. If I say Byx, so this is the regression coefficient of Byx when you are finding the equation of y on x. What do you mean by the regression equation y on x? That means when x is independent and y is dependent variable. That equation is called regression equation of y on x, when x is independent and y is dependent. And you have to calculate this equation when you feel that y is dependent variable and x is independent. Further, when you have to estimate, suppose I have to predict for this example. Okay, for this example, if I have to estimate what would be the sales if budget would be 50. Okay, here you can see you don't have budget value which is equal to 50. Okay, so you have budget 10, 12, 20, 15, 16 and so on. But if suppose budget would be 50, if budget is 50, then what would be the sales? How would you find? Okay, or if budget is 25, then what would be sales? You cannot calculate unless until you have a model, you have a regression model. Okay, if you have this regression model, if I can form this model, I can estimate this model, then just I put x equal to 25 and I get the y value. Okay, so once you know a model or a equation, once you estimate that, then you can estimate any y for given x. Okay, so therefore this equation is called y on x. So my budget would be x variable and sales would be y variable. So for finding that you need b value. Okay, this slope b is basically slope of the line. So how would you estimate this b? B, or you can say byx, and same thing. And byx is equal to regression coefficient. This is r is the correlation coefficient. आपने लास्ट चैप्टर में देखा correlation coefficient r, और सिग्मा x क्या होता है? सिग्मा x एंड सिग्मा y क्या है? स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन. तो यू हैव डेटा, ये मान लीजिए आपका y है, ये आपका x है, इसका आप स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन आराम से निकाल पाओगे x. Once you have x series, you can find the sigma x, you can find sigma y, you can find the correlation coefficient. So once you know all these three values, you can easily find this. Okay, and once you find this, you can put here, and you know how do you find a. Okay, because you know the this line would satisfy this a plus b x bar. So you can also find a value through this b bar minus b x bar. So this is the way you can find the a value also. So once you find a and b both, you can put in here and you get the your regression equation. So here you can see this in example how we have calculated the regression equation. So because we have to do here all the things, we have to calculate all the things. That means we have to find the correlation coefficient, or you can say sigma x, sigma y, or you can do use this formula, simple this formula which I told you, b equal to this. Okay, so this using this formula you have calculated. You can see first of all we find the x bar, y bar. Okay, x bar आपका आ गया, y bar आ गया, b आ गया आपका. Okay, and b से आपका a आ गया. So b आपका कितना है 1.14, a आपका आया 10.6. तो ये आपको कैलकुलेशन सारी दिखानी पड़ेंगी इस पे. ओके, एंड फाइनली दिस इज योर रिग्रेशन इक्वेशन. सो यू कैन सी दिस इज योर रिग्रेशन इक्वेशन, ये जो आपकी आई है. ओके, कि y इक्वल टू 1.14x प्लस 10.6. इफ यू प्लॉट दिस इक्वेशन ऑन योर ग्राफ पेपर, यू कैन सी. ओके, तो आप देख पा रहे हैं ये आपके पॉइंट्स है, जो आपके पास ये डेटा पॉइंट्स थे ना 20 पॉइंट्स. ओके, टोटल नहीं 15, सॉरी. Here n is 15. What is n? The total observations, that are 15. Okay, so 15 observations if you plot on your graph paper, taking budget as x-axis and sales as y-axis. Okay, so you can see your line is best fit among the given points. So these dots are 15 points, और जो ये लाइन है डॉटेड लाइन है, ये आपकी जो आपने जो फिट की है लाइन, दैट इज द लाइन. एंड आई एम श्योर दिस लाइन इज द बेस्ट फिट. व्हाई दिस इज बेस्ट फिट? बिकॉज you have find this line with the help of principal or least square. So it is by obtained by minimizing the error terms. तो आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ पे अभी भी एरर है, ऐसा नहीं है कि बेस्ट फिट है. जैसे ये पॉइंट है, इस पे बेस्ट फिट है, इस पॉइंट में ये एरर है. ओके, दिस इज द एरर पार्ट. ये इसके लिए यहाँ पे एरर है. ओके, यहाँ पे ये ऑलमोस्ट इट इज ऑन द यू कैन से लाइन. ओके, so our aim was to best fit in the given sample points. जो line fit हो वो best हो. So there can be infinite number of lines which you can fit in this data, but you have to obtain such line which would be the best. और बेस्ट किस सेंस में कि एरर शुड बी मिनिमाइज. सो जो हमने ये फार्मूला ऑब्टेन किया है, ओके, ये बाय मिनिमाइजिंग द एरर्स यू कैन सी. ओके, ये जो एरर क्या होती है बेसिकली, इफ यू सी हियर y cap, what is my y cap? Y cap is basically your estimated value. Okay, y cap is your estimated value using this equation. y is the actual value. देखिए ऊपर जो अगर आप देखेंगे yi वो क्या है, एक्चुअल वैल्यू. एक्चुअल वैल्यू किसके इक्वल है, अल्फा प्लस बीटा एक्स आई प्लस एरर. Then you obtain the actual value using this formula a plus beta x, sorry predicted value. ये क्या आपके estimated और predicted एक ही बात. Okay, and we have to minimize this error between this and this. हमारा एम क्या है कि ये एक्चुअल वैल्यू है, ये प्रिडिक्टेड, इसके बीच में जो एरर हो वो मिनिमम हो, कम से कम. तो इसलिए हमने इस एरर को मिनिमाइज किया है with the help of principle of least square. ये जो आपको दिखाया गया, although this is not in your syllabus, you should know how you have to minimize this, and for that you have to take the derivatives, okay, and equating it to 0, and you get this b value. Okay, so finally you obtain this equation, you can see this, and here again what I am saying to you, if the marketing manager, this line, if the marketing manager wants to know the estimated sale of for an advertisement budget of rupees 10.5 thousand, so it can be obtained by using the regression equation. Just budget की वैल्यू 10.5 यानी x की वैल्यू 10.5 रखिए और y की वैल्यू आपकी आ गई. Estimated sale would be, this is your budget x, so it is 22.57. So this is the aim of regression. Final aim क्या है, you can predict y value for given x. Therefore this equation is called regression equation of y on x. Similarly you have that second equation. There are two equations of regression. एक तो है regression equation of y on x. इसकी जो फॉर्म है, this is y minus y bar equal to byx x minus x bar. You can write in this form also. Okay. Second equation you have regression equation of x on y. But please note discussions. Okay, you may have two equations. Why you have two equations? Because as I said to you, if you have a bivariate data like x and y, like here sales and budget, now you may have x as your budget, or you may have y your budget, or you, in other terms you can say you may have your dependent variable maybe budget or sales. आपके ऊपर है ना किसको आप डिपेंडेंट बनाना चाह रहे हो. So depending upon that we have two equation कि आप हो सकता है कि y is depending on x और हो सकता है x is depending on y. So if you have this equation using the same methodology, you get the second equation x minus x bar equal to bxy y minus y bar. This is the second equation. So this is first one is called regression equation of y on x and second x on y. So depending upon your need you have to use the equation. What you need to predict, accordingly you have to find this. Okay. So उसी डेटा के लिए आप ये भी निकाल सकते हो. You can estimate the regression equation of y on x on y also. The two equations may not be the same. Usually they are different. Same कब होगी, जब आपका डेटा बिल्कुल एक्यूरेट होगा, रिलेशनशिप 100% आपकी, or you can say when you have regression coefficient is equal to 1 or minus 1, then the both line would be same. Okay. So now we can see one example before we go to the error part. So this already you know regression coefficient, I don't know. So this is the basically method of least squares. If you see here, I can drop this. Okay, so this is the method of least square which I told you. Using this we have obtained basically this. Okay, and this is the equation of straight line y equal to a plus ba, and you can also obtain your you can say estimate A and B with the help of these normal equations. Okay, so these are obtained by when you take the derivatives and equate it to 0. So you may remember this, but otherwise you can use directly the formulas for A and B, which I already told you. Also, it is written in your books. Okay, and using A and B, you can find the line of regressions. Okay, so here one example is, so you have to fit a regression line. Okay, y on x. So you have to find y on x. So how would you find y on x? So you have to do all these calculations. You can see ये x है, आपका y है, x square निकाला, x y निकाला. Okay, and using this normal equations also you can find this a and b. You can see how we have calculated a and b. Okay, so finally you can see b value is 0.5 and a is coming 1.357. So there are many formulas through which you can find a and b. So you may remember any one. Okay. Similarly, this another example you can see. Again you have to find a y on x. So again you calculated all these things. Okay, and you find this equation. And for this example, we have calculated both regression equations. You can see we have only 5 observations here. Okay, and we have find the both equations, y equal to this first and this second is x equal to. So this is the y on x, this is x on y. So we have both calculated, both the regression equations are calculated. So you can also find that. Further, you can see this is the form which I was discussing here. Okay, so x b x y or b y x. So you must know what is the formula for b y x and b x y. B y x is, what is b y x? B y x is called regression coefficient. R क्या होता है? Correlation coefficient. So you should know the relationship between R and B. B is the correlation coefficient. R क्या है? Sorry, R is the correlation coefficient and B is regression coefficient. And there are two regression coefficient. One is B xy and other is y on x. And their formulas are for B xy equal to R into sigma x upon sigma y, and B yx would be equal to R sigma y sigma x. And if you multiply both, you must have this formula. If you multiply both these, so what will you get? जी, if you multiplied bxy and byx, तो आपका क्या आ जाएगा? ये क्या होता है? byx इज r सिग्मा y सिग्मा x, और ये क्या होता है? r सिग्मा x सिग्मा y. तो ये कैंसिल आउट हो जाएगा. So this would be equal to r square. So that means correlation coefficient is equal to square root of multiplication of both regression coefficients, or you can say r square of correlation coefficient is equal to multiplication of both regression coefficients. ओके, यानी दोनों रिग्रेशन कोफिशिएंट का जो प्रोडक्ट है वो किसके इक्वल होता है? स्क्वायर ऑफ कोरिलेशन कोफिशिएंट. So this is very important relationship, that r square would be equal to multiplication of bxy and byx. Okay. Further, these are the formula for bx and y and bxy. If you take x and y as the basically these are already deviation from the mean, then, or x is here basically x minus x bar, not exact x. Already it is written here ki deviation from actual mean, then your bxy or bxy would become compact. Okay. फर्दर ये फार्मूला भी मैंने आपको बताया था, जो बुक में लिखा हुआ वो यही है, bxy इक्वल टू सिग्मा एक्स वाई माइनस एन एक्स बार वाई बार. सो दिस इज द बुक वाला फार्मूला. Okay, so these are the different ways according to problem you have to use them. Okay, okay, now we would do this. You can do this type of question. एग्जाम में इस टाइप के क्वेश्चन की जो प्रोबेबिलिटी ज्यादा रहती है, इफ यू सी कि फॉलोइंग डेटा रिलेट टू द स्कोर ऑफ 9 सेल्समैन ऑफ ए कंपनी in an intelligent test and weekly sales of thousands in thousands. So if the intelligent test score of a salesman is 65, so what would be his weekly expected sales? So यहाँ पे क्या है, we there are two variable, one is the test score and second is the weekly sales. So if there is any relationship between the intelligence and sales, okay, so उनको लगता है yes there is a relationship and we want to now find, we have to determine the regression equation between these two variables. तो इसमें आपको किसको x लेना चाहिए और किसको y लेना चाहिए, और in other words which should be the dependent variable and which should be independent variable. Yes, what should be the independent and what should be the dependent? किसको? Why? Because what we need to expect, देखिए वहां पे जो given है ना, if the intelligence test score of a salesman is 65, find the weekly sales, find the weekly expected sale. We have to estimate now, we have to predict sales for given intelligence score. So intelligence score क्या हो गया? Independent. Sales क्या हो गई? Sale would depend upon score, तो sales आपकी y हो गई which is dependent variable. So आपको जो मॉडल में लेना है ये आप क्या लेंगे? y लेंगे और ये आप x लेंगे. Okay, and then you have to develop your model, you have to find b by x and a, and then you predict y value for given x. Finally जो आंसर है मैंने यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है, so you can do that. Okay, and you can check your answers. Is it clear? Further, we have one more example. The following example shows the age and the blood pressure. So x मेरा age है और y क्या है? Blood pressure है. Okay, of 8 persons. So basically it is for a sample data only. Population would be very big. तो मैं सिर्फ एक उस सैंपल के बेसिस पे पूरी पॉपुलेशन को एस्टिमेट करना चाह रहा हूँ. Okay, I want to develop a regression model only for sample data, and using that model I would estimate for the entire population. This is my aim. So I have x and y, and finally I have to find the expected blood pressure of a person whose age is 49 year. तो यहाँ पे फिर से वही आपका जो जिसको आपको निकालना है, what you have to determine, that is your dependent variable, और जिसकी वैल्यू गिवन है that is your independent. तो एज आपका यहाँ पे इंडिपेंडेंट है तो वो x रहेगा, एज मेरा x रहेगा, और जो ब्लड प्रेशर है वो मेरा. तो आपको मतलब इससे क्लियर हो जाएगा x क्या है और y क्या है. ओके, एंड देन यू कैन एस्टिमेट दिस. फर्दर you may have this type of problem also instead of the above problems, क्योंकि in above problems it takes time. You have to calculate x minus x bar, y minus y bar, then multiply x square, y square. So it would take time. So usually in questions we may have this type of data also in short form. Okay. So this is the summarized data basically. So you can see in a correlation study the following values are obtained. Okay, and find the two regression equation. So how do you find this regression equation if this data is given to you? So I would do this for you. Okay. So here you need not to find the mean or standard deviation and correlation, you can say already it is calculated. So how would you do find now the regression equations? देखिए फर्स्ट रिग्रेशन इक्वेशन का फार्मूला मैंने ऑलरेडी लिखा है. ये क्या होता है y माइनस वाई बार इक्वल टू बी वाई एक्स माइनस एक्स बार. नाउ व्हाट इज बी वाई एक्स? बी वाई एक्स इज इक्वल टू आर इंटू सिग्मा वाई अपॉन सिग्मा एक्स. नाउ ऑलरेडी गिवन मीन. ओके, मीन दिया, स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन दिया हुआ आपको, तो इसमें पुट कीजिए बी वाई एक्स वुड बी आर क्या है मेरा 0.8 इंटू सिग्मा वाई कितना है मेरा 3.5 अपॉन 2.5. ठीक है, कितना आ जाएगा? हाउ मच? हाँ जी, एनीवन, हाउ मच? बेटा नो डिस्कशन प्लीज. So you can calculate b by x. How much would be this? कैलकुलेशन में ही नहीं आती आप लोगों को. हाँ जी, 0.7. Any other? 1.12. Okay. So this is only b by x. Now put it here. Y minus y bar कितना है हमारा 67. Okay. Equal to this 1.12 x minus x bar कितना है मेरा 65. So the equation would be y equal to 1.12 x. Okay, and this would be minus 65 into 1.12. How much it would be? Calculate this. Okay, and minus plus 67. Okay, so ये कितना हो जाएगा टोटल? So this would be y equal to 1.12 x minus ये 5.8 आना चाहिए. Let us check this. हाँ जी, ठीक है, आ रहा है यही. So you can see वहाँ एक सॉल्यूशन भी लिखा हुआ है, y इक्वल टू क्या आ रहा है, तो इट शुड बी similarly you can obtain the second equation. Okay, सेकेंड इक्वेशन क्या होती है मेरी x माइनस एक्स बार इक्वल टू बी एक्स वाई वाई माइनस वाई बार. बेटा ये इधर से आप इसके सामने बैठ गए एलसीडी के सामने. हाँ जी, सेकेंड इक्वेशन क्या आपकी x माइनस एक्स बार इक्वल टू बी एक्स वाई वाई माइनस वाई बार. सो यू शुड नो दिस इज माई x माइनस एक्स बार इक्वल टू दिस r sigma x upon sigma y and y minus y bar. Okay, so just calculate this now. Again 0.8 into 2.5 upon 3.5. So by calculation, doing this calculation, simple calculation, you can obtain equation of x on y. Okay, तो ये जो आपका x इक्वल टू ये आ जाएगा आपका x इक्वल टू 0.57 y प्लस 26.72. So this way, if your information is given in this summarized way, you can easily obtain equation of y on x and as well as x on y. Okay, using these two formulas, or if you know these exact form of regression equations. Further, these are the some properties of the regression coefficients. Okay. So number one, कि both regression coefficients will have the same sign, either both positive or both negative. अगर एक नेगेटिव है तो दूसरा भी नेगेटिव होगा. इट इज नॉट लाइक दैट वन इज नेगेटिव अदर इज पॉजिटिव. ओके. रिग्रेशन कोफिशिएंट किसकी बात कर रहे हैं हम? बी एक्स वाई एंड बी वाई एक्स बोथ वुड बी सेम साइन, both would have same sign. Further, square root of the product of two regression coefficient would be equal to correlation coefficient. I already told you R is equal to square root of bxy and into byx. Further, if one regression coefficient is more than one, then the other would be less than one. Okay. Further, regression coefficient would have the same sign as that of the correlation coefficient. And arithmetic mean of regression coefficients यानी bxy plus byx divided by 2. So this is the arithmetic mean. So that would be always greater than correlation coefficient. Okay. And the two regression lines always intersect at the mean x bar y bar. जो जहाँ पे intersect करेगी वो point कौन सा होगा? x bar and y bar. That means अगर मैं graphically इसको शो करूँ, if this is my x and this is y, मान लीजिए ये इक्वेशन है बी वाई एक्स एंड ये आपकी एक्स ऑन वाई है. सो ये जो मेरा पॉइंट होगा ये मेरा एक्स बार एंड वाई बार होगा. सो द टू इक्वेशंस वेयर इंटरसेक्ट दैट वुड ऑलवेज बी द मीन. ओके. एक्स बार वाई बार यू कैन से. देयरफॉर द बोथ लाइंस पास थ्रू द मीन बेसिकली. Further, we can have one more example finally. Yeah. This is also very important, this type of example, if you see in regression equations. Okay, in partially destroyed lab record, okay, only the following results are you can say legible. Variance of x, you know, variance of x कितना है? 9 है. Regression equations, you know, there are two regression equations and you know their forms. Now what you have to find out? The mean value of xy. Second, the coefficient of correlation between x and y. And third, you have to find the standard deviation of y. So how would you calculate these things? Can you find anyone? How would you find these all the three things if this data is given to you? देखिए, what you need to do here, you have to find that there are two regression equations, but you don't know which is on y on x and which is on x on y. Okay, so the most important thing here is to determine which equation is y on x and which on x on y. So there can be two possibility. अगर आप मान लीजिए जूम करते हो कि पहली इक्वेशन है वो y on x है, तो ये सही भी हो सकता है, गलत भी हो सकता है. अदरवाइज क्या होगा? सेकंड इक्वेशन होगी y on x, यही तो होंगे. देयर आर ओनली टू पॉसिबिलिटीज यू कैन से. सो यू हैव टू एक्सप्लोर बोथ द पॉसिबिलिटी वन बाय वन. ओके. सो लेट अस अज्यूम कि फर्स्ट जो इक्वेशन है ये आपकी किस पे है? लेट दिस इज ऑन y on x एंड दिस इज x on y. ये आपने अज्यूम कर लिया. लेट अस अज्यूम यू कैन से. ओके. Once you assume this, you can find the bxy and byx. How would you find bx and y and byx now? Because you know the regression coefficient का जो slope होता है, the slope is basically the b value. Okay. So if this is y on x, now what is the slope of this line? You have to convert this line into y form. So y would be equal to, okay, this would be equal to 8 by 10 x, okay, and plus 66 by 10. Similarly, you have to convert into this form, x equal to this line. So x would be equal to 18 upon 40 y plus 214 40. So basically this 8 by 10 or you can say 4 by 5. My byx is 4 by 5 and bxy is 9/20, you can say. I have to assume this, first equation is y on x and second is x on y, and correspondingly I calculated their slopes. Okay, so I have calculated byx and bxy. Now you can see both have of same sign, and if you multiply both, okay, so you get r. R is basically the square root of this bxy and byx. Yes, ठीक है. So this is 9/20 into 4/5. So this would be 6/10, or you can say 0.6. So here you can see the r is coming 0.6. If you just multiply both the regression coefficient and take their square root. So since correlation coefficient is within the range -1 to +1, so our assumption is valid. If you take otherwise, you would say r would be out of range, and you come to know कि your assumption is wrong. यहाँ पे मेरा assumption बाई चांस ठीक हो गया पहली बार में, क्योंकि मेरी r की वैल्यू 0.6, तो आपने r कैलकुलेट कर लिया जो सेकंड वाला था. मीन कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे? दोनों इक्वेशन है, दोनों को सोल्व कर लीजिए. I hope you know how to solve both the equation, because the mean is passing through the both lines. So if you just solve these two equation, you can find x and y, x bar and y bar. And finally, how would you find the standard deviation of y? Through regression coefficient. Any regression coefficient this, because byx is equal to r sigma y upon sigma x. Okay, so byx मेरा कितना है 4/5, r कितना है 0.6, sigma y I don't know, sigma x कितना है, sigma x is 3. वेरिएंस ऑफ x गिवन है ना आपका, वेरिएंस ऑफ x क्या है, सिग्मा x स्क्वायर, वो 9 है, तो सिग्मा x कितना हो गया 3, तो ये 3 हो गया. ओके, तो ये आपका 12/5 और ये नीचे 0.6, so this is equal to sigma y. Okay, so you can multiply, this would be 4, so sigma y would be equal to 4 finally. Just by doing this simple calculation you can find sigma y equal to 4. So I have calculated all the things except the mean. You can easily find the mean, just solving the two equation you can find the mean. You can find the correlation coefficient by finding the slopes and taking the assumption like this is y on x, this is x on y. Okay, if r is between the permissible range, then our assumption is correct. Suppose यहाँ पे वैल्यू आ जाती 1.6, तो गलत था, then our assumption is wrong, and हम रिवर्स करते फिर उसको, and accordingly you have to find slopes, and then you have to calculate the correlation coefficient. So I hope this is all today. Okay, for today we have enough. So thank you.